welcome to the African Content in the New Normal discussion. We are talking about the future prospects of the service industry after COVID, and we've got some wonderful women on the line today. We've got some extensive knowledge, and we've also got some newbies in the field. So we're going to get a wide range of opinions, and we're going to be discussing a pretty diverse array of discussions here today. Firstly, we've got Genevieve Hoffmeyer, who is the founder of Moonlighting. We've also got Amanda Dlamini, who is a producer from Black Coffee TV and Films. And then we've got Silindile Jali, who is the content and communications lead for TVWA South Africa. Now, as you can see, that's a wide range of expertise is the word that I was looking for. But we're going to start chatting to Genevieve. You've been in the industry for the longest here. How have you found the challenges so far of COVID? We've gone into lockdown. A lot of productions aren't on the same level as they were before. So have things been affecting you?
Well, Bob, it was a huge shock. We've been producing international films and television series for 25 years. And we have suffered global the consequences of some global events like a writer's strike, or there've been, currency issues where suddenly workers slow down. But this was just a complete stop. International borders closed, and our entire business is really dependent on international travel and people coming in. So after addressing that and thinking, okay, now we're in this situation. The amazing thing is we're a very robust, I think, innovative industry, and just started figuring out how best to get around it. Started formulating protocols, looked at remote possibilities, which is difficult in long form, but possible. We've done it before. So started looking at all of that. We haven't ourselves gone into production yet. So we still, because we can't bring foreigners in, but that's opening up now, which is pretty exciting. So for us, it's been a time of, firstly, it was a welcome time to re-look at our business, think about better ways to do things. It's been productive and an opportunity for us to strategize. One of the incredible things is just seeing how the industry is pulled together. The IPO, which is the Independent Producers Organization, is something we've been involved with for a long time, and it's always been pretty fractious. And through COVID, it's really come together. All the different sectors of the industry have really combined, and it's been an amazing experience. And I think that's the solidarity that's come out of this. And I found also within our business, both dealing with the foreign studios and within our own staff contingent, there's just so much care for other people that has come out of this process. Even though the business is important, it seems to have just gone on to a different level. I notice in all the conference calls I have with our fellow American producers, we never just dive in now to the subject, whatever it is, whatever our business
have discussions.
We have discussions about how we are, how families are, what our world is like, what we're experiencing, what they're experiencing. And it's just changed the nature of how we communicate.
So you're finding people are more empathetic at the moment?
Very much so, very much. It's really incredible. And I think we've all learned a lot, which is going to stick. I feel like, although it's been challenging, we know now that some departments can work remotely, and actually it helps certain people. They've got situations at home where it's an advantage to be at home. So we used to think that was impossible. Well, it's not impossible. I think we've also learned how adaptable our industry is. Yes, we were so used to 140, 150 250 people on set on our bigger productions. Well, now we can't. So how do we do that? Yes, it's going to cost more. There are going to be challenges, but there are ways of doing it. And it's just exciting to see how innovatively we can think around these problems.
I like your approach there. That's you on a more what are the solutions kind of like situation. We will chat about that just now. We'll definitely chat about the restrictions to number of people on sets. But I actually want to chat to Amanda quickly, and I want to see what challenges have you faced, because from what I understand, Black Coffee is a relatively new company facing some challenges when it comes to COVID. So you guys were set up just before lockdown, or can you tell me the story there, please?
Sure. Morning, Bob, and thank you so much for having us at the Film Mart. We're super excited. As a Durban local, I've attended the film market myself many times, so it's something that I love, and I'm so grateful we haven't missed out on it this year. But with regards to COVID and how we've almost handled the situation, and definitely more solutions based than problems, is that we opened our doors on the 1st of July, 2020. And I think COVID, like Genevieve was saying, it's pushed us outside of our comfort zone to do better. So there's a lot in our industry that's actually improved because of the circumstances that COVID has brought about. I think we had, for a long time, almost got used to our problems rather than finding ways around it and seeing how we could work with it. It does have budgetary effects and costs attached, but it does also come out on the other side very interestingly. We have in our company just done a reflection on our first shoot that we got done during this time, and we were almost looking at like, it wasn't really pros and cons that we were weighing out, but more experiences. And much like Genevieve was saying, it's almost like a humanity has come out of every single person, every single department, and collaboration has not meant more than it means right now. I think everyone is pulling in together in a very, very different way, with more care, more concern, more of a holistic outlook to the project, rather than I'm just a little cog and I'm a piece to this greater puzzle, but how do I affect the overall puzzle and how can I make that better? How can I be better? And that's been really encouraging. And it's also made us as a production company almost want to do better just because we now know how amazing and how much people are willing to give in, but not necessarily just give of themselves freely, but like invest. And we hope we can also have a similar impact and invest back in them. We're trying to figure it out though.
Yeah, quite an interesting time to be figuring it out.
Yeah.
Silandile, I want to chat to you quickly because you are the ad representative here. You're from TBWA. How have things affected you with this whole new normal that we are under?
Hi, Bob, and hi, everyone. Thank you for having me here. So like you said, I am from TBWA, and it's actually quite a unique organization for me to be representing in terms of the advertising agency, because my specific company actually has PR, it has youth organization, it has a strategy, we have advertising, obviously, and so there's a number of different sub-companies within the organization. We even have a production company as well. So each company, each team really works differently, and we do have teams that have, need to really be together, need to be quite close, in touch with each other, especially creative, and let the ideas flow and brainstorm type of thing. But we also have teams and projects where the entire team, everyone is sitting somewhere different, and they work week in, week out, year in, year out, remotely. So for some people, it's been a complete shock. And for some, it's been, business as usual, just depending on the brief that you get. But I think for us, it really wasn't that much of a shock, because as a global company as well, we're in touch with all of our offices. And when the pandemic started, we already were in touch with our Chinese office, telling us this is what the changes they've made, this is how they're playing things out. And as it spread throughout the world, obviously it hit us here in Africa last. we were already prepared. I mean, our company went into working from home mode 2 weeks before the government announced it. So we were spot on ready for it.
Yes, and you actually brought up something quite interesting there. One of the advantages I think you probably have is the international branches that you have, like TBWA is an international company. So you guys were learning ahead. You were watching what other people were doing, other parts of your company were doing, and taking on things from them. What sort of protocols what sort of protocols did you see the international side of your company taking and that you decided to take on?
Well, the first one is obviously getting the teams away from the office and then getting everyone to be in touch with not just their immediate teams, but also their HR departments, to just start letting each other know how you're feeling, getting each other well aware of the symptoms, so that you can check not just yourself and not just your team members, but also people in your family, because obviously what happens in your house affects you as well and your ability to work. But I really like how everyone is mentioning that, you know, people have become really important, because I think that's the one thing that has sort of come up the surface for us as well. Even teams that work remotely and teams that work physically together, the one thing that's become quite, you know, obvious is that people are just as important as briefs.
I mean, personally, I would say people are probably more important, but that's just me as a person. I do quickly want to let people know that if you want to engage with us, you can submit your questions, and also you can engage with us on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram. Our hashtags are hashtag DFM 2020, hashtag Durban Film Mart, hashtag Virtual Edition, hashtag Brave New Cinema, and hashtag not just another Zoom meeting. Definitely not just another Zoom meeting. We will be taking questions throughout, so please submit them. I would love to ask your questions to our lovely guest today. One of the things I saw Genevieve that Moonlighting has done, but even before COVID, I know it's on your smaller scale productions, but you actually have done, you worked with clients via cell phone. You've actually done camera setups and everything and had them critique from overseas. You already did that before COVID. So can you tell me a little bit about that process?
Yes, well, we've done it. We've done it before, not necessarily on cell phone, but on a kind of link up where a director hasn't been able to be with us, and actually was a showrunner on a series called Warrior that we did recently, and he was in New York, and we in real time, I think there was maybe like 1 second, 2 second delay between the image reaching him, and so that was very tiny, even just under a second, I think. So it was amazing. So that technology exists and absolutely can be used, and people have been using it now. During lockdown, commercials have been made using that technology, and it's amazing. It is challenging though for long form projects to really, you know, for a director to engage with actors. Ideally, one needs to be right with them. So it's something that does work though for commercials and in certain circumstances, and is fantastic because now it's become an option. Before it was only a circumstance dictated that one had to, whereas now I think people will say, well, do we need to spend the money to travel to South Africa? And actually, another sort of offshoot of that is that with foreign production, I think more local skills and expertise will be going forward. I think people will weigh up their options and consider more carefully, do they need to actually jump on an airplane and fly, 24 hours to get here, and rather use as more local talent and expertise, which I think is going to be a benefit for us, just in terms of our growth as an industry. So yeah, the technology is a great result of COVID.
Yeah, I agree entirely on that sense, because of the necessity now. we've had to do it. And now that we're doing it, there's no need to go back. There's no need to tell someone, hey, yeah, you need to fly 24 hours. Even though some of us might enjoy, getting the flights and being allowed to travel around the world. I think that's part of why people get into film in some regards. But at the same time, I love what you said that it actually opens up the industry locally a lot more now, because we're so used to people coming in from overseas. South Africa in the last decade has become a destination for filming. So many TV shows are filmed here. So many movies are filmed here. But local expertise isn't necessarily being developed through those projects. Sometimes it is, but now you see that becoming more of a thing, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Look, I mean, the industry has developed a lot in the last 10 years. Well, actually, really since the rebate was introduced, so that was in 2004, where it's become a substantial industry, and the skills transfer has really worked, from foreign teams coming in. The transfers work. Now the teams are just getting smaller and smaller in terms of that, and South Africans are taking over those roles, and it's been a very exciting process for us to witness and be part of over the years. But of course, it's challenging for our clients, because they really need to feel, going forward, they really need to feel confident. These are not small investments they make in these territories, like South Africa. So they've got to feel really confident that we can pull it off, we can safely mount a production. We have the right protocols in place. The protocols we've developed, we've had to align with SAG and VGA and all the international organizations to be able to, not just South African government regulations, but we've had to align it to worldwide protocols. But I think we've done that, and I think we're ready to produce, high level TV series and films. But it is challenging. It's challenging from a cost point of view. It's challenging from a risk point of view. It's challenging from an insurance point of view. So we've got to give our clients a lot of confidence that that we can pull it off. But yeah, I'm feeling confident that we can certainly do that.
Cool. I want to see, Amanda, have you been on sets at all since lockdown?
Yes, and I must say, in terms of the skills transfer, I have been so encouraged by the skill that exists locally. I think sometimes when working in a service cycle, for Black Coffee Films, we are geared towards the local market as well as Africa. So for us, it's been very interesting working with the crews we've worked with for years, but without the international clients coming in. And what we are grateful to have is the confidence of our clients that have been willing to take these first steps with us and almost test out the COVID waters. But I must say, our protocols as an industry are absolutely amazing and next level. And there are a few areas here and there where you can tweak them yourselves. But I think similarly to the caution South Africa has shown in its approach to COVID, on set, it's very, very similar. We have very well knowledgeable medical staff and very cautious crew. I think it's almost everyone cares so much for the next person and for their families at home and for themselves that no one wants to put anyone at risk. No one's willing to kind of be a cowboy about it a little bit. From cast to crew to technical production crew, everyone is absolutely geared towards not risking this, because we went 5 months without work. We do not want to find ourselves in the same position. So people are very, very cautious, and it's encouraging that now, as time has gone past, more briefs are coming in, more scripts are coming in, slowly but surely, because people have also had time to sit down and rework some of their concepts, rethink some of their concepts. And so it's definitely, there's an an insane level of creativity that's out there. And there's also just super excited crew that just wants to work and wants to go back to work and make some of the most amazing things. And it's been very encouraging.
So people have actually been, like, I was wondering what it would be like to be on set these days, because I thought it might be a little terrifying, you know, with everything, but people are in good spirits.
People are in really good spirits, and almost, I mean, we probably have a good time on social media ranting about people not wearing their masks wrong or anything like that. But on set, you find that no one gets offended. Everyone understands that for the greater good, we just got to follow these rules. And I don't want to be without work again, or sick, or dead. So it's just best that we all stick to these very simple rules. Wear your mask, sanitize your hands, wash your hands, keep your social distance where you can, sanitize anything around you that you touch, keep your hands to yourself, almost like drama 101. Don't touch anything you don't have on someone else.
That's just good in general. Like, that's just a really good rule that everyone can stick to.
Just keep your hands to yourself.
Silandile, have you spent much time on set? Because I know the ad world has still been, you know, going full steam ahead. So have you been in the office or have you been on set?
Personally, no, I haven't spent any time on any set in any office. But we have had some teams come in to offices, like obviously reduced numbers, social distancing, sanitizing, masks, all those protocols in place to come work on pitch work. We've had teams come in to shoot commercials. So for select projects, we have had people come in, obviously smaller scale. We've had rotational schedules for people who want to come to the office, because obviously you have to remember that not everyone's family or home environment is allowing them to be able to be productive properly. So it's been quite interesting. Those who don't need to, stay home.
And so you've just been staying home. But have you found navigating things from home then? Have you found having to manage, you know, not on sets, not being able to direct things whilst you're there, not being able to communicate directly? How have you found this barrier?
I think the most interesting thing has been to actually navigate the relationships between people. Not being able to walk down the passage and go, hey, do you have 5 minutes? I need to just check your thoughts on this. Or, you know, trying to put together a quick meeting with people from different organizations or different teams. Those have been the really biggest challenges, is trying to get people together in that kind of way. And then within the teams that you work in, it's more about how do you check in with people without checking up on them. It's a very fine line without making it seem like I don't trust you to do your work when you're not in the office, versus how are you actually?
Okay. And have you found working with brands been in this time period? Have they been understanding? Have they been leaning on you a bit harder? What has that experience been like?
It's actually been really, really great. I think because it's a situation that everybody is going through at the same time. There's complete understanding. You know, meetings are going great. Clients are understanding. We're still pushing on work. We're still delivering on our briefs. We're still creating really great work even throughout this time. So it's been really great. And in a way, it actually has brought people closer as well, because it's like how Genevieve was saying in the beginning, that banter, that relaxed talk before the meeting has become so much more important, so that you really, really connect with people, and just to keep those relationships alive as well.
That's one of the things I'm really loving about this conversation, is that it seems that things are like actually better, that people are in good spirits, that everyone's actually become more empathetic because of this. And that's so wonderful to hear, because not every industry is like that at all. So it's really cool to see that the film side of things is like that. Genevieve, I did want to chat to you quickly, because we were chatting beforehand. You work on longer form stuff typically, and you haven't been able to lately. So you've been planning for the future. What has that entailed?
Well, we've been continuing our relationship. Well, first of all, when lockdown happened, we had, I think, 5 or 6 productions, and in pre-production. We just finished shooting two projects, and we were in pre-production, and those immediately shut down. So obviously we've been still continuing with those and their planning of those, but under completely new conditions, the new normal, and now reconfiguring and rethinking. And I think as Amanda said, there's been creatively, had to go back to the drawing board and say, okay, well, let's say we do get this project up and running. How are we going to change it creatively? Are we going to have two storylines running so that we're covered if something goes down? Are we going to look at the projects on our slate which are easier to film in COVID? In other words, no huge scenes with lots of extras, and that it's more contained. And are those the projects that we're going to, push forward ahead of other projects? So I think it's been a time of figuring out what's going to come in and how are we going to cope with it. We've developed a protocol, as we said. I mean, I think just picking up on what Amanda was saying, the film industry is incredibly organized and incredibly disciplined as an industry. So there's no better kind of group of people and team and discipline to take on the challenges of COVID. Okay, we all have to wear masks and we have to do this, and this is how you're going to check in the morning, and this is where you got to go. That's what we do. We organize. It's a very well organized, structured type of industry, because it has to be, because it's every hour is so expensive that one has to hit one's marks. So I think we've developed something that can really work in terms of filming in the COVID environment. I mean, there are still the factors. The biggest thing is actors and how to protect them, and without being insured, it becomes very tricky. One needs to have, the systems that we've put in place are zone systems, so that zone A or red zone or whatever it is, only the people around the actors, and those people are tested regularly, like 3 times a week is part of that plan. So it's quite a detailed and elaborate plan going forward, but we're hoping to be in production on a big series. We're hoping to start in October and film in January, which feels feasible. So we've been preparing for that, and at the same time, because the rug was pulled out so swiftly in March, and everything just came to a complete dead standstill. We also had to look at, our dependence, our revenue stream is entirely foreign, or almost entirely. We do produce a few local productions, but our revenue stream at that moment was entirely from outside of South Africa. So we also had to look at, should we get involved in local production, which we have done, and we will continue to be. So because we just feel that our skills could be used there, and that's been an advantage for us. It's just expanded our scope of work. But I think that what we've learned is just how important our industry is. Sorry, I think I've got some noise, but how important our industry is to people, businesses here, directly and indirectly. It's 3 billion rand, I think, was in 2019 was the service industry's injection into the economy. And I think that it's great to appreciate how, having seen it gone away, it's great to appreciate how important it is, and we just want to bring it back.
Oh, thanks for that insights. I do want to let the audience know you can ask us questions in the messaging function. So please do that. We've got a chat function. So just send your questions through. I'll be asking them in about 10 minutes. We're going to be going for 55 minutes. And at about 40 minutes past 11, I will be asking all your audience questions. So please submit them. One thing I wanted to know, Amanda, have things gotten more expensive or are they cheaper now? Because there's this perception, at least, that if there's less people working on something, you should pay them less, or, like, also people have less budgets, I guess. So what has the situation been with regards to that?
Yeah, Bob. How long is a piece of string? That has been that's where we get pushed back into being creatives. As producers, I like to think of us as the first creatives, and then we just left with the task of finding the money for our insane thoughts. So yeah, I'd be interested to know what Silondile thinks in terms of from her side as agency, but you can get as creative as you need to. I think, yes, there has been an increase in terms of costs on the ground. But the approach we're taking is that this is now going to continue being part of our lives. So I think we've had to be creative across all departments, across all intersections that come with our industry. So if they're not flying here and it's a remote shoot, what does that look like? What does that mean cost-wise? If we have to fog down an 8-bedroom house or, a city hall because we're shooting there, what does that look like? What does that mean in time? Because I think more than a budgetary constraint, it's been a time cost. And then that almost like rolls up because of how we've had to space things out, be it rolling people into the office so that you don't have more than one production team in the office space at a time. What does that look like? What does post look like now if the director's not sitting there with the editor all day going through everything? What is that cost impact because time is being taken? So that's more the manner in which we've almost had to be creative. I think baseline understanding from the people you might collaborate with or be working with at the time is that costs will increase. But if we all work towards tightening our belts a little bit or having sensitivities towards cost, then maybe we can make it. And we have found some very interesting ways to get around what it looks like once the product has been shot, making sure that quality stays prime and number one in mind. And then also just, seeing who you could pull out of the woodworks. It's been a very interesting time in that regard. But yeah, cost-wise, obviously it would have an effect. But I think it's been more of a time cost and a rethinking of those time costs rather than, I just need more budget.
That's actually, you bring up a very good point there, because less people does mean more time is going to be taken to do something. But Silondile, I actually wanted to, Amanda brought you into the conversation. How have things been for you guys? Because you work with big brands, they've got big budgets. Are they now, being like, hey, there's less of you working on this thing. Why do we need to pay you so much? Or, we're not flying in. What sort of things have come from your side? Have budgets gone up? Have they gone down? And have your costs gone up or down? Silondile?
So budgets have been impacted on our side purely because if the client, for example, is in retail, and retail is obviously an industry affected, that means creative budgets are then smaller. So it also kind of depends on the impact itself. And then obviously you always have to look at it, because we service consumers, we basically create for consumers. If consumers have smaller budgets, then it doesn't really make sense, for the client to be spending all this money on creative. But I heard a really great quote some time ago from a CMO who said that when things are like this, that's when it's actually most important to, when budgets are like strained, it's the one budget you don't cut is the creative budget, basically, because that's the thing that people really need the most. They need the creativity, they need the storytelling. Those are the things that people actually hold on to. So I was really touched by that quote I heard from the CMO, and I think for me it makes the most sense. What I've seen happening in our agency specifically and in our industry is that this time calls for smart design. It calls for smarter thinking. yes, budgets might be smaller or shrinking in some way, but the output is not expected to shrink at all. No one is expecting quality to be less in any shape or form. In fact, they're wanting more for less, with less people and everything to go with it. So we really had to think smart and think about how do you approach things in a different way? How do you sort of kill two birds with one stone?
And how important has collaboration been with regards to this? Like, because I know, Amanda, you were bringing up now, you have to call in favors and stuff like that. So for yourself, Silindile, how much has collaboration played a part in this?
Super. I think personally, I'm quite lucky that in my role, relationships and collaboration are like the pillars of everything that I do. So to give you an example, I work on a project, we call it /Africa. It's basically a trends and insights platform, and we work with people in 50 countries, collecting insights and news what's happening in your country. We've been doing this even before COVID for the past 2 years. So obviously now everyone's working from home, there's more pressure, the working hours are a bit longer, and there's just general tension in the world. This is a time when collaboration becomes even more highlighted. But because relationships are already built and the collaboration flow is already established, it's so much easier for me to be able to tap into people and say, hi, this is what I'm looking for. Can you help me with this? And I think to Amanda's point about having to call in favors, it is really helpful to be able to do that. But I think even more, you also have to be able to give value to other people. So it's not just about what can you give me, but please help me with this, and I will be there for you when you need that type of thing. So for me, that's how relationships and collaboration work together.
Genevieve, as someone who's been in the industry a while, I'm sure you've lent on collaboration for a long time, and you've probably called in a few favors, probably done a few favors. But how have you found the industry these days? Has that been more of a necessity now? Have you found it, solidarity to be a bigger necessity now?
Yes, absolutely. And I think that's going to continue going forward. I mean, yes, of course, we've had to call in many favors, and we've done favors. We've done, things for freebies. We've done, of course, collaboration is so important. And actually, the thing about the film industry, which what I've found is it's a big widespread industry, but it's actually a small family, and it's a little bit like being in a circus or something. We get to set, and we really work together. And it's the same with our suppliers. It becomes this. We are a bit of an ecosystem, and I think that what I've just been amazed to see how much understanding there is now in this new post or COVID world, how much understanding there is about people's predicaments, what they need now, and how we're going to achieve it, and just figuring out things in a different way. And I think it's going to mean a huge amount in terms of the future of the film business. I think that it's going to change things, and it's the business is going to become more fluid and innovative.
Well, thank you for that insight there. Amanda, I wanted to see from your side, how has it been? Just in terms of collaboration.
As a little guy, the boundaries that have come down, I mean, obviously, still having existed in the ecosystem of the film industry previously, you almost know where are the gatekeepers, where you'd find an issue, where something might take a little bit longer. I don't want to say it doesn't exist anymore, because obviously at best there are reasons why those barriers exist, but everyone is so invested on seeing the next person win. No one cares anymore if you're just having a little piece from my plate, and the fact that I have a plate to share from means more than keeping you away from my plate. So I think that has been super exciting. I'm very hopeful that this will stay long term, much like our COVID protocols. I think we've all had like a reset back into our humanity and understanding that like we actually really love what we do. I think there was a point where it was almost saturated and we all felt it, but we couldn't really talk about it because then you're talking about your problems and you don't tell other people your problems. But I think it's weird to call a crisis a breath of fresh air, but it definitely brought about a relief and a release into a relaxed position where we're all willing to jump on board, help each other no matter what, and make sure that the next person succeeds. Like, I've gotten more calls from people I worked with previously, kind of being like, how are you doing? I think I've come across this. I think it might work for you. Or do you think it might work for someone else? Or who are you thinking of in this regard? And the almost like playground bullying and like gatekeeping has definitely come off the table. And that has been very, very encouraging, not only for collaborations in South Africa, but like I'm saying, throughout the world. We've almost kind of all taken a knock and been like, yo, bro, are you okay? Like, let's help each other. I've got an extra Band-Aid. I've got some clean water. Come, like, my next door neighbor can help you. And that's really, really been great to see.
I'm really loving that. We even got a comment, more of a comment, less of a question, from Joelle Cheslet, who says, it's fascinating to hear how empathy has entered the film industry, which can be very hardcore in the lack thereof. So she's very grateful to hear that. And even myself, I'm like, that's so, like, it's so just different, you know, like that a pandemic would actually make an industry more empathetic. I was not expecting that going into this, to hear that. I was expecting to hear, oh, it's been so hard. This has been difficult. These people have been difficult. It's all been a nightmare. And meanwhile, you've all told me, no, things are actually kind of better after everything. This has actually forced us now to really re-look at everything. One thing I do want to know, we'll start with you, Silindile. How do you see work going back to the way it was? Do you ever see that? Are you ever going back into the office? Is a good question.
Definitely. definitely going back. Maybe not right now. I think for me, this time apart has really highlighted the value of human contact, the value of having people in front of you. Like, it's great to be able to connect with people, you know, beyond where you are, people all over the world, digitally. But for me, it's just really highlighted the value of being with people in close proximity. I mean, I don't know how comfortable we'll be being in close proximity quite soon, but like, for example, when you attend an event, being able to walk across the room and just say hi to someone and introduce yourself, that is got immense value, whereas it's rather difficult to be able to do that in this type of context. So I'm definitely going back.
But what changes do you see in the future? Like, do you see these things running forward? Do you see more remote work being a bigger part of our lives going forward?
It's actually going to be, from my perspective and from the trends that I've seen, it's going to be a bit of a blend. There's either going to be employees that work full-time at home, probably coming in once a month when necessary for checkups type of thing. There's going to be employees on a rotational schedule that come in once and stay from home the next week. There's going to be those who do come in and stay at the office, maybe like your admin and your support type of staff as well. So it's going to be quite a blend, I think.
Can Genevieve, for your side of the industry, like you say, 200 extras we're probably not going to see anytime soon, but there's obviously ways to CGI that in, and there obviously are other ways to do long form film. So do you see sets ever being the same scale that they were before, or are we now looking at just going forward, everything being streamlined?
I am hopeful that sets will go back to the size that they were before. But I think it will be different. I think that even though the big movies will still be made, I think there will be choices that are gonna be smarter. For example, big extra scenes. There's more risk if you've got more people. So the smarter choice would be to use CGI more. So there'll be choices like that are made that wouldn't have been made, or we wouldn't have been forced into making those kind of choices. But I'm hopeful that we return to some kind of normalcy, some better normalcy, a better place. And I think time will tell, but in a world where travel is back and people can enter the country with ease, why not? We just need to be smarter about what we do. We're human. We like being together. I think the remote work is great. It's taught us that it can happen, and that in some cases it's an advantage. But we love to be with people, and especially in this industry, that's why we've chosen it and love it and are passionate about it. It's very much about other people. So I'm really hopeful that it comes back.
Okay, cool. We're going to get into the audience question part of the show. It's not really a show, is it? It's a panel discussion. It just feels like we're doing a TV show here. The Cape Town, this is from Tianis Ferreira, who says, the Cape Town water issue did real and perceptive damage to Cape Town, South Africa, as a production destination, and some productions moved to Durban. Now, after the industry adapted to the water issue, COVID-19 affected everyone globally. To what degree will international productions return to SA, or how long after COVID is over do you think international production work would return to the level in SA it was pre-COVID? Will there be added hurdles to get productions to consider SA like they did before? So is it easier to get international work now or harder? And when will we see things return to pre-COVID levels?
I almost think of the drought as
Sorry, I should have.
Oh, sorry. Yeah.
I should have actually, that was a big mistake on my behalf. But yeah, Amanda, please let us know your thoughts.
Sorry, I thought, I mean, I did think about this in lockdown, and I was like, maybe the drought was like our omen and we just ignored it. But we adjusted and we made the best of it. And I think international clients are very excited to get back into the country in terms of the scale at like how quickly would return to the scale. I think that's something to be considered and might take some time, but the hunger to shoot in South Africa definitely hasn't gone away. If anything, the appetite for it just grows and grows, exponentially.
Well, thank you. Genevieve?
I would agree with Amanda that there's a strong interest to come back. It's physical impediments as to why there's no international work at the moment, or very little, but the desire is there. So I think this year is going to be a tricky year to navigate, but hopefully next year we should see quite a lot of production coming back. Sure, it'll be a little bit less. I think people are going to be more. Producers are going to be more circumspect about their risk and weigh that up. But I would imagine that we'll have a good year next year. Plus the fact that there's a huge need for content right now. Yeah. So the streamers are really anxious to get more content out there. And we're a desirable film location and film infrastructure here. So it will come back, but it will take a bit of time, and it's going to be challenging for sure.
Silindile, I assume things are slightly different for you guys, just judging by your international clients and that. Have you still been going full steam ahead, or are you actually scaling back at the moment? Are you not at pre-COVID levels, or are you about the same? Silindile?
Hi, Bob. So for us, in terms of clients, it really hasn't changed much, to be honest, just because even when we do have international clients, we would only wouldn't be an often regular meeting situation. We would normally use connection tools like this to stay in touch on a regular basis. But I think just to kind of answer the question that you posed to Amanda and Genevieve, obviously I can't speak from a film perspective, but I think the international filming is kind of very much related to international tourism in a way, just because it might not, the gates might not be open for international film if they're not open for international travel and tourism type of thing. And I think looking at the projections we have right now, we can only really expect those types of levels to be open on an international scale mid next year, probably. That's the earliest comfortable.
Okay, so we're all looking towards next year with regards to that. We've got a comment from Sipo Basa, and I agree with this comment so much. I hope that the next festival is a traditional festival. It is so much better being able to get, eye contact. And I agree with that, being able to, that's one thing we've all kind of said here with regards to productions even. It's just going to be so nice to finally be able to just see people again and talk. I can't wait for the next film march, for the next film festival, where we actually all get to do this in person. But we do have another question. This is from Sibungile Nene. They want to know, what do you make of the different funds that have been allocated for filmmakers? Has it been spent adequately, and do filmmakers have adequate access? So this is, I think we'll throw it to Genevieve first for this one. It's a bit of a controversial one considering the climate we're in.
Yeah, it's a hard question to answer. Funds are, there's nothing tighter than funds at the moment. So I think they've been for crew who haven't had work. There's been access. How well managed that's been. For some people, it's worked fine. For others, I've heard that they've had difficulty. So I can't say that it's been a smooth process, but there have been avenues for people to claim, money because there's been no work. The Department of Arts and Culture have offered up programs. Netflix has offered, had a very generous fund available. But and thankfully, the biggest thing that supports our industry, both local and international, is the debate. And thankfully, that's back on track. I mean, that was a huge worry for all of us, because that's been the backbone to the growth of the industry in South Africa.
You've actually mentioned rebates twice. Do you want to just quickly explain it for people who don't know?
It's a government incentive to boost the local film industry and to attract foreign direct investment in terms of foreign production coming in, and it's pretty significant, and it's been running since 2004, and it really gave a kickstart to the industry in South Africa, and we need it to continue, and that's specifically for long form projects. It doesn't really apply to commercials, but it's really an important plan, and we were really worried during lockdown that it could disappear entirely, but it was announced a couple of weeks ago that it's going ahead, and meetings have resumed, which means that local productions can go ahead and have access to government funding, which is really, really, really important.
Cool. Amanda, we've got about a minute left. How's your experiences been with the government funding side with, COVID? Have you seen any of the relief funds? Has your company made use of that? Have you paid anyone out with that? Yeah, what's it been like for you?
Yeah, much like Genevieve was saying, it is obviously very tricky. A lot of funding that is usually available to the film industry paused with COVID. So along with the rebate, there were many other avenues as well, where if you had applied for funding previously, much like film festival funding as well, all of that kind of paused. And then the Department of Arts and Culture, as well as private funders, much like Netflix, have definitely come up with solutions to assist crew on the ground. Obviously, that's not necessarily a system that could be sustained long term. There have been some issues. We have seen mismanagement across the board of funds, not necessarily particularly just to film. But I think what was encouraging was our government's sensitivity to the scope of the film industry in South Africa and how many people were affected by work no longer being available. a lot of people that we work with are considered freelance contractors. So by not having any work coming in and not being able to do any work till a certain point, that definitely impacted a lot of families and a lot of people's livelihoods. So where funding was released and where relief was had for some people, I have had very good feedback, and a lot of people very happy that it was advocated for them on their behalf to get that funding. But yeah, we need to fix a few places and spaces, but obviously it's not as hard now with work slowly picking up, with more people being able to get back to work. Yeah, it's good.
Cool. Well, thank you so much, all of you, for your time today. This has been such a cool discussion because, like I said, like going into it, I was expecting things to be a little bit more like, the world's on fire, the sky is falling. But each of you have brought such a positivity to things, and you've each been like, no, it's great. Like things are going to be good. Like we're learning, we're adapting, and it seems like the future of the film industry in South Africa is definitely looking good, even after COVID. So thank you very much, Silindile. Thank you very much, Genevieve. Thank you very much, Amanda. And thank you very much to everyone who has been watching at home, or maybe you're watching on your phone in a pub somewhere, wherever you're watching. Thank you so much for joining us today for this discussion. We look forward to seeing you in more of these DFM Film Mart discussions. We've also got quite a few different, check your app. Just go and check into the app. There's so many things happening. We've got meetups, we've got panel discussions, we've got workshops. So check out the app, and we'll see you again in the next session.